Over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, I received over 500 emails spanning 3 different accounts. These range from a notification about a shared Google Drive file, credit card receipts, an alert that my CS 130A midterm grades were finally published. Although I always considered emails to be a tedious product of both work and school, analyzing more about them made me more curious about their functionality. So I went ahead and did some research, and I came across a company named Statista that focuses on marketing and consumer data. They analyze internet traffic, and according to their yearly report for 2022, there are over 4 billion daily active email users, around 333 billion emails are sent per day, and on average, an average person receives around 100 emails each day. Now, the structure of an email is relatively simple. We have the sender, timestamp, text body, receiver. But this uncomplicated structure makes it the perfect communication channel. Emails serve a unique communication niche that social media and text messaging simply cannot compare to. Yet, outside of annoying promotional emails and business-related communications, the question I wanted to pursue is how much can they truly accomplish? Now hang on to that question for a little bit as I sidetrack us to another story. It'll make sense, I promise. One of my favorite pastimes is reading webtoons, Korean comic books, and I read a lot of them. Their endless scrolling feature and bingeable content makes them the perfect stories. But I have a problem. English translated webtoons are usually 30 or so chapters behind their Korean counterparts. Since I can read Korean, I would usually migrate to their respective Korean platform and finish it there. But without a Korean social security number nor phone number, I'm unable to create an account and track my progress. I've managed thus far using my Notes app and a simple spreadsheet to track my progress, but once I hit around the 400 different series mark, keeping track of everything became extremely difficult. Thankfully, using my personal programming background, I used this discomfort into motivation for a personal project. I sought to create a program that would both keep track of my webtoon progression and update me whenever a webtoon I've read gets updated. And what was the perfect solution to my problem? Emails. I was initially extremely intimidated at the idea of using this crazy foreign technology when embarking on my journey. But when a friend suddenly recommended emails, things weren't so scary. As I mentioned earlier, emails have a relatively uncomplicated structure. But this simple structure means that I have extra creativity in tailoring them to fit my specific needs. After figuring out the smaller backgrounds and database tools that I use in class, I managed to finish my project in under 300 lines of code. And now, every morning, I get daily updates with a list of the webtoons I'm reading and links to their newest respective chapters. This was my first personal programming project, but it's also my favorite because it showed me the power of simple tools. It helped me stop associating complex ideas with complex processes of innovation, and it helped me turn towards simplicity for creativity. Now, we've already established the simplicity of emails, but I want to talk about how you can use the simplicity to achieve bigger and more tangible goals. Oh, that's supposed to be a video, but I can kind of summarize it right now. So the person in this video is a TikToker who shows that crazy success stories don't need complicated processes. She was on the UChicago waitlist, and just by sending her admissions officer with a poem of why she deserved to get in, she was later accepted. Now, I am not trying to claim that her email was the sole factor in her decision, as I'm sure that she is an extremely capable and accomplished individual. But the point I'm trying to hammer in is why not try anything, even the simplest of things, to achieve a goal. The simpler things are, the lower the risk, but that doesn't necessarily detract from the reward. And this idea expands into a lot of different things. Job and internship searching, receiving extensions for difficult assignments, getting into your dream college. We're so focused on the magnitude of our higher goals that we forget how easily success can come. I've personally had so many success stories by just sending out an email with the expectation of getting ignored or rejected, but just slipping through with a chance. Now, these are just some interesting encounters I had with emails, but I believe that it tells an even greater story about the world that we live in. Sorry, the slides aren't working. Within the last century, we made amazing advancements in science and technology that hinge on the simplest of ideas. Oh, the video was supposed to play like a while ago, but it's all right. Yeah, all good. The scientific method starts off with a singular question, a unit of curiosity that scientists then build off of to create the amazing advancements in physics, biology, and computer science that we see today. We couldn't have arrived at the breakthroughs in quantum physics, evolutionary theory, and artificial intelligence if we didn't first start at seemingly small questions like what is matter, where does life come from, and what makes us human. Now, I said seemingly because EE topics are usually the most deceptive. How many of you, when studying for a midterm or class, glance over a topic because you think to yourself, oh, that's easy? Now how many of you, when encountering such easy topic on a midterm or final, end up regretting not studying that topic more because every question now somehow seems to deal with that easy topic? Now, this isn't a coincidence, and that's because the most complex theorems are usually just amalgamations of smaller building blocks of properties and applications. And that lesson that you learned in week 2 could very much be the differentiating factor on whether you can or cannot understand the lessons in week 8. And this emphasis on simplicity persists in even the most unexpected of fields. Less than a year ago, artificial intelligence company OpenAI unleashed DALL-E 2 for free public access. If you haven't used DALL-E 2 before, it's a generative AI program that takes in prompts from a user to create realistic images, imitate artistic styles, and expand the canvases of pre-existing artworks. From a singular prompt, users are then greeted with infinite possibilities of outcomes. And with the addition or removal of singular inputs like light versus dark, users are then greeted with vastly contrasting images. Now, for general users, these possibilities serve as infinite opportunities for creativity, experimentation, and personalization. And interestingly enough, these qualities mirror a paradigm shift occurring within modern art. Historically, art has always been associated with complexity and technicality, a craft reserved only for those with the adequate time and money to pursue such endeavors. But modern technology, globalization, and the rapid ease of access to information are democratizing this process. With a quick Google search, I can find thousands of reference images on Pinterest, watch masterclasses on YouTube, and read critical examinations of why Salvador Dali's or Frida Kahlo's or Michelangelo's artworks are masterpieces. Contradictingly, rather than ushering progression towards the extremes of technicality and complexity, modern art is moving back to the basics, replacing an even greater emphasis on mastering the simple foundations of art and examining seemingly simple questions like what is color, what is canvas, and what is emotion. Whenever we read the headlines and see the newest breakthroughs announcing NASA's JWT telescope or how Apple's newest M1 chip are game changers in performance, we're robbed of seeing these individual incremental processes that go into creating these amazing results. There's a stigma placed on simplicity where everyone wants to go big or go home, but we sometimes forget that the best results first derive from relatively simple origins. I mean, there's a reason why I can't just decide to tackle the hardest problems in math without first understanding the principles of mathematical proofs and building a proper repertoire step by step. Now, this idea exists in many fields, as I said before, but within my domain of software engineering, it exists as the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. The benefits of the KISS principle can be summarized within 2 distinct categories. 1, product creation, and 2, product advancement. For product creation, it is imperative to first define easy and simple minimum viable products and then iterate incrementally. You don't want to be hovered over your computer for weeks on end trying to figure out why the 8 different aspects of your program suddenly aren't working together. You want to first define one simple key aspect of your program, and then another, and then make sure that they can communicate between each other interchangeably. and you want to complete this process and iterate accordingly until you achieve your final product. If you follow these principles, you'll find that it's much easier to achieve product feasibility, as it's so much easier to debug, think about, create, and manipulate one key aspect of your program at a time, rather than trying to understand why the entire massively complex program is malfunctioning as a whole. Now, for product advancement, initially building up your product to be a combination of simple building blocks allows so much more room for creativity and improvement. We all know and have interacted with the iPhone before, but do we ever take time to think about how the early iOS versions look like? When we compare them with the newest iOS 16, the differences are truly astounding. And this example goes to show that even though you may have some idea of what you want in the beginning, that almost definitely isn't going to be the same as what you want at the end, if there even is an end. Over time, you'll want to implement new updates, bug fixes, design implementations, but adding these onto a system that was initially designed to work as one massively complex organism is magnitudes harder than adding these onto a system that was designed on the basis of modularity. This idea is even one of the most basic principles of object-oriented programming, if you've heard of it, and it's the popular programming paradigm that dictates the development of almost every single software we use and interact with today. Now, I first want to admit that complexity is okay if it's necessary to enhance a product, but otherwise, it just makes things harder to debug, harder to think about, explain, and improve. But, of course, knowing what to keep simple and what to make more complex is much easier said than done. But just being mindful of this process will help you develop that intuition at a much faster rate. In literature too, if you haven't known, all stories come from a mere 7 different types of frameworks. 1, overcoming the master. 2, rags to riches. 3, the quest, and so on. Yet, fiction's infinitesimal potential comes from first understanding these basic frameworks and populating them with characters, and then settings, and then dialogues, and then themes. There's a reason why writers first start off with outlines, and then move on to storyboarding, and then go into rough drafts, and constantly iterate that cycle until a final draft is achieved. And that's because the simplest of things often invite the most potential. And when you start small and you can analyze all these building blocks, it's much easier to brush out future roadblocks instead of trying to fix it at the final product. Now, just for a disclaimer, but I am not trying to encourage you to discard your biggest hopes and dreams. Those can and should stay. My goal is to try to offer a new perspective on how to both begin and frame your journey. When you start small and work your way onto bigger and bigger motives, you'll find that it's easier to tackle conflicts and issues along the way, rather than getting stuck in analysis paralysis when looking at the system as a whole. You'll find that it's easier to tackle complex ideas, to take risks and get rewards, and to gradually build up those finer details that end up being the difference between being good and being great. There's a stigma we place on simplicity that insinuate that we require these extravagant plans to achieve our dreams. But what if that stigma was changed? Rather than pigeonholing yourself on a singular journey and getting consumed with anxiety from fear and rejection, why not try changing your perspective and looking at the little things? I may have primarily introduced examples with emails, and the examples I introduced might not be in your domain of expertise. But finding some creativity within simplicity aren't limited to these singular topics. There's truly an unexpected reservoir of resources out there, and sometimes a little creativity and a change in perspective is all that you need to use them. Thank you.